Assalam-o-Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are going to start the new book, that is the principle of fiqh. This book is actually in Urdu language by the name of Asan-Usul-e-Fiqh, written by Sheikh Khalid Saifullah Rahmani. He is one of the greatest scholars of India, and his speciality is in actually fiqh and usul-e-fiqh. So, in my opinion, that book which is written in the Urdu, that is Asan-Usul-e-Fiqh, is one of the best and very easy book of usul-e-fiqh. So I decided to convert that book into English language as per my understanding and knowledge, and we will be going to learn the same book in English language, inshallah. So after reading this book, you will find it very beneficial in understanding the Islamic fiqh and how rules are extracted from Quran and Hadith, and what are the other sources of extracting and deriving the rules of fiqh, and which rules comes under the which ruling, like what is farz and what is wajib and mandub and mustab and all these things. So first we have to understand what is usul, and another one is what is fiqh, because the name of this book is Usul-e-Fiqh in Urdu, and in actually usul is not actually a total Urdu word, it's actually an Arabic word. So usul means ruling, and fiqh is also Arabic word which is fiqh. They both have their own separate meaning, where usul means rulings and foundation, and fiqh means understanding. So now first let's discuss about this word. What is fiqh? In Arabic, fiqh have two meanings. One, its literal meaning, and another, its terminology when it used in the Quran and Hadith. So in dictionary, the meaning of fiqh is understanding, and in Islamic fiqh and Islamic jurisprudence and Islamic rulings like Quran and Hadith, fiqh means a study of things or a study of separate rulings which help us to distinguish between human actions as per what is farz, is it wajib, or it is sunnah, or it is mustahab, and all. So in dictionary, the meaning of fiqh is simple, it's understanding of anything is fiqh. But in Islam, the meaning of fiqh is to understanding the ruling of human actions as per the Quran and Hadith order. I hope I made myself clear while explaining you the fiqh. And usul is foundation or rulings. So in Asan-Usul-e-Fiqh, we can say the principles of fiqh. Usul-e-Fiqh means principle of fiqh. Now, before starting this book, we have to go with few terms which is going to be used in this books again and again. So if we are able to understand this in the very beginning of our lesson, it will help us to understand the upcoming chapters more easily and with more benefits. First, here the definition is given. What is usul-e-fiqh? The principles of jurisprudence is a study of principles and rules by which the Sharia practical deeds extracted by the proper arguments. It means why we learn usul-e-fiqh. So we learn and we study the usul-e-fiqh or the principles of fiqh or jurisprudence, because by knowing the rules of usul-e-fiqh, by knowing the rulings of extracting the rules, it helps us to extract the exact ruling of any matter from Quran and Hadith and other sources, Islamic sources, without making any error and mistakes while extracting those rulings. Let me make this very easy for you to understand. Why we study usul fiqh? We study usul fiqh because the study of usul fiqh help us to extract or get the exact ruling of any of our action, any of our work as per Shariat. So when we learn the usul fiqh, when we study the usul fiqh very deeply, we will be able to understand the position of every Islamic deeds and actions, and how it's placed and sorted in Islam. Which work is farz, which is wajib, which is sunnat, which is mustahab, which is mandub. All these are the rulings in which our all actions are divided. So once we understand the usul fiqh or principles of fiqh, we will be able to understand how these sorting and classification of our actions made, and what are the evidence and arguments behind sorting all these actions. For example, if we are saying the namaz, the salah is farz, so we all know that the ruling of salah is that it is farz, it is obligatory, we have to do it. But if someone asks you what is the Sharia argument, what is the evidence and dalil and proof that the salah is farz, salah is obligatory in Quran, in Islam. So once you understand the principle of fiqh, once you studied the Islamic the usul fiqh, you will be able to explain the evidence behind obligatory of salah. I hope I made myself clear why we study usul fiqh. Once you study the usul fiqh, you get a complete knowledge about the rulings and its evidence. Now, the whole principles of jurisprudence based on two things. One is Sharia argument, which is also called dalil, and another one is called Sharia action, which is also called amal or af'al, our work. The whole principles of fiqh is only based on two things: what we are doing and what's its position in Islam. Whenever we do something, any action or work occurred from ourselves, what's its value and position in Islam? For example, if I am offering salah, so what is the position of salah in Islam, and what are the evidence and rulings behind stating that position? If I am doing fasting, what is the position of fasting in Islam, how many types of fasting there are, and what are the arguments and evidence behind the ruling of fasting? Okay, so the whole usul fiqh is only based on two things: what we are doing and why we are doing it, what are the reason behind doing it. Understood? Now the another question is the reason of studying the principles of jurisprudence or principles of fiqh. Why we study usul fiqh? I already stated you and mentioned in the beginning of this book that avoid mistakes while extracting any rulings. Why we study usul fiqh? We study usul fiqh because the study of usul fiqh help us to not fall in the error and mistakes while extracting the rulings, because it's actually a huge responsibility to not make any mistakes while extracting the rulings from Islamic sources like Quran and Hadith. Because if you made any mistake while extracting the rulings, that mistake is not only bound to you, but it's going to spread from you to all the human beings who comes to you for the rulings, and who comes to you for any suggestions and any recommendations. So it's very important that if you not study the usul fiqh, it's a probability and it's very likely that you will made a lot of mistakes while extracting the rules from Quran and Hadith. But if you understand the usul fiqh, If you know the principles of extracting the rulings from Quran and Hadith, it is unlikely to make any mistakes and error intentionally or unintentionally. So the why we study usul fiqh? We study usul fiqh so we can prevent ourselves from making any mistakes while extracting the rules from Quran and Hadith. Now the whole discussions of usul fiqh based on four things. One is Sharia arguments and evidence, which is called dalil. Second is Sharia deed and actions, which is called amal and af'al. Third is law and methods of extracting the rules. There are some key features and rules and steps we have to follow and keep in mind while extracting the rulings of any action from Quran and Hadith. And fourth is intention behind Sharia ruling. What are the intention behind all those rulings? Why we extract those rules? How we put a label of obligatory and sunnah on any work? All these things are going to be discussed in this book. So this is actually the beginning of the book and the introduction of this book, which give you a very abstract summary of the whole idea behind this book, that what we are going to get from this book. Let me summarize this one again in a very simple way. The whole purpose of understanding and reading the usul fiqh is to avoid ourselves from making any error and mistakes while extracting the ruling from Quran and Hadith. And what are the benefits of learning the usul fiqh? The benefits of learning the usul fiqh is to understand how any work comes in under any ruling. Like if there is any of our action, how we put a label on that action, whether it is farz or it is sunnah. So we understand the process and steps of putting a label of farz, wajib, sunnat and mustahab on any of our action. Now come to the dalil, arguments. It is that which a ruling can be known with a proper consideration. What is dalil? Dalil is a evidence or proof behind any ruling. For example, if Zaid is saying this is my pen, so Zaid is telling that this is his pen, but what's his dalil? What's his argument and evidence behind claiming that pen belongs to him? If he provides the evidence, that is called dalil. And another word is hukm shari, the sharia order. What is hukm shari? Hukm shari is the judgment which given after considering the dalil, after stating whether the dalil is right and wrong, and after that on any action, the hukm shari or the Islamic rules or order given on that a particular action or work. For example, when Zaid is claiming that this red pen belongs to me and he provided a proper evidence, so the judgment will be passed on consideration or while considering his evidence. If his evidence is right and proper and true, the judgment will be passed that this pen is indeed belongs to the Zaid. That is called hukm shari. And if the evidence is wrong, then another judgment will be passed that this pen does not belongs to Zaid. Again, this is also hukm shari. Hukm shari means when you passed a judgment while or after the consideration of the dalil and proof behind claiming or behind that work or action. For example, let's understand this with a proper example from Quran. When we say in the Quran there is aqimus salat, you all read or offer salah, or you all establish salah. So in Quran there is aqimus salat, you all establish the salah. Now here, if a person like me comes to you and tell you that the namaz is obligatory in Quran and we have to read it, now you will ask, what is the dalil, what is the evidence that namaz is obligatory in Islam? So I will give you this statement from Quran that aqimus salah is from this ayat is from Quran. When I am presenting you this Aqimus Salah to you, it means I am giving you a proper evidence from the Quran that this ayat, this verse is from Quran, and this is a commandment from the Quran that we should establish Quran. So here, what is dalil? Dalil is aqimu. Aqimu is a word, word. It's actually a fele amr of amr wahid muzakkar, jama muzakkar hazir. And we all know in amr we give commands to someone to do something, and it is very obligatory and it's necessary for that person to fulfill my command. So the dalil is here amr fail is used. And what is hukm shari? Now, after consideration of this fail amr, we have put that offering the salah is obligatory in Islam. So the offering of salah is obligatory in Islam. It's hukm shari. And what is the dalil? Dalil is a sega of amr. It's a fail of amr. Another example, harramar riba. Interest is prohibited. What is the dalil behind it? There is a statement in Quran. And what is hukm shari? The hukm shari is that now interest is not acceptable in Quran. I hope I made myself clear while explaining you what is dalil and what is hukm shari. Dalil is an argument, and what is hukm shari? Hukm shari is the judgment passed after consideration of our evidence. Now, Sharia evidence and arguments have two types. Now, the main question rise here. Okay, we understand what is dalil and what is evidence. Now, who decide what are the source materials can be used as a evidence? For example, when Zaid is saying this red pen belongs to me, who will decide that what kind of evidence is acceptable? Whether he has some receipt when he bought that pen, whether he has a video that explain that this pen is belongs to him, or he have any audio or anything. So whenever we provide any evidence, it is very important that what kind of evidence we are providing while claiming on any object or products. So it's very important. So again in Quran, Islam, when we are providing evidence, it is very important that from where we are providing that evidence. So in Islam, there are two types of category of evidence. One is muttafaq alay. Muttafaq alay means under these evidence, under this category, all the evidence are accepted by the whole majority of Muslims, and no one is denying and shown his disagreement over these types of evidence. So muttafaq alay is Quran, Hadith, Ijma and Qiyas. These are the four sources of evidence which are muttafaq alay. It means all the scholars have shown their agreement and acceptance over these evidence, that if anyone is providing any evidence from one of these four categories, it should be considered as a true evidence without a proper arguments of denial. If someone is presenting you any evidence from one of these category, we have to accept it. But if we have any stronger evidence which shows or which proves the disagreement of existing argument and proof, then it may be acceptable. But without any proper and strong evidence, no one can show or no one can express his disagreement when the rules or when the evidence and proof comes from one of these sources of muttafaq alay evidence. Now, another type of evidence is mukhtalaf fi. Mukhtalaf means fi. Under these evidence, there are some disagreements. Few scholars accept these arguments, these sources as a proper evidence. Some of the scholars does not accept these as a evidence. They both have their own reason behind it, which we will be discussing more in our upcoming further chapters. Right now we have to understand what we learned today. Let's summarize this and close the video. I think it's enough for you to understand, because from now you are not learning Arabic grammar, so it is not very easy for me to explain those things. So now we are learning a very high level of books, so it actually it's want a great consideration and pondering, and as well as great explaining skills, which I am lack of it. Now, what we understand today, why we study usul fiqh? We study usul fiqh to understand the exact position of any rulings, and how we extract any rulings from Quran and Hadith, what are the source materials, and what are the things which can be used as evidence while extracting or putting label on any actions, how many types of source material which are accepted and which there are some disagreements. So the agreed evidence are four, that is Quran, Hadith, Ijma and Qiyas. And there is also another type of evidence which have a lot of agreement as well as disagreement, that is Mukhtalafi, which we will be learning later inshallah. There are total 7 Mukhtalafi or disagreed evidence and source, which we will be learning later inshallah. What is Quran, what is Hadith, what is Ijma and Qiyas? We will be learning these of all four in its own separate chapter. And always remember the sorting. First we have to look into the Quran for the evidence of any work. Then we have to look into the Hadith for any work, any ruling. If we could not find the proper evidence in Quran and Hadith, then we have to go for Ijma. And again, if we do not find any proper and obvious evidence in Quran, Hadith and Ijma, then we have to go for Qiyas. We cannot directly jump to Qiyas or Ijma or Hadith. We have to go in the sequence order. First look into the Quran. If you can't find, then look into Hadith. If you can't find, look into Ijma. If you can't, then into Qiyas. And if you could not find the rule in all these four, then it is acceptable to go and look into the other source, that is Mukhtalaf fi source material. That's for today. Please tell me whether you understand these things or not. Then I will be able to go with the next chapters. And if you find this very hard to understand, then I will be working hard to make these things more easy for you inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.